Hello everyone, my name is Abdurrahman and today we're going to talk about Azure Cognition AI and we're going to be using image recognition. The required steps is to upload the equal number of pictures for each category that you're trying to recognize, and then we're going to train the model using 16 pictures for each category with different angles and backgrounds. Then we are going to test the model using familiar and unfamiliar models and photos to test the model. Now, adding our own criteria. In my own example, I'm going to be using swords, and there are 4 different kind of swords that I've prepared: the katana, longsword, scimitar, and the rapier. Of course, like I said earlier, I have gathered 16 pictures of each one of them, and because some of the swords or the type of swords do look very familiar, that even regular humans would have difficulty differentiating between them if they don't have enough knowledge. And that is why the criteria for these ones are quite difficult to reach, which is why the precision for the katana, for example, is 60%, and the rapier and the scimitar longsword, because they are much more easier to identify, their precision is much higher. Although despite this fact, it was surprisingly, the algorithm was still able to identify the differences between them. Now, here's an example of the sources that I have chosen and their criteria. First of all, we have the scimitar. The scimitar is somewhat curved and it's broad, which is easily identifiable this way. And then we have the katana, which is very slim and slightly straight with a little small curve. Next we have the rapier, which is very straight and very slim. It has a short handle, and the hand guard is very curved, which gives it a distinctive shape. For the longsword, it looks somewhat between the katana and the rapier, except it's a little broader like the scimitar, which is a little bit of a challenge for the AI to differentiate between these types of swords. And I'm not only going to be differentiating between them based on familiar photos, but I'm also going to be using unfamiliar photos, like the photo on the right, which is very hard to capture because it has a lot of noise on the background. Like, for example, there is a person that is holding the sword. It is not a plain sword, and there are many noise around the picture, which makes it even more difficult. Okay, now allow me to demonstrate how we're going to do this. First off, you're going to need to go to customvision.ai, and we're going to create a new project. For example, I'm going to call it assignment 4. We can create a new resource, although I have already created one, but all you need to do is just give it a name, for example, image recognition. You choose your subscription and the resource group that you're creating it for. You can also create a new one. You're just gonna need to give it some name and just create, because I already have one, so I don't need to create another one and take a long time. And then you just create resource over here, right? And so when you select your resource, you should find it here. We have multi-label. We should select the multi-label and keep this as general. Now you're gonna create your model, and right now it's an empty model. It needs pictures, right? But before we do this, you need to give it some tags. For example, swords. Oh, whoops. Over here. Swords. And scimitar. Katana. Longsword. and the rapier. Alright, and now we're gonna add the images. So like I've said, I've prepared 16 images for each one of them, and we're gonna begin importing the katana images over here. So as you can see over here, they are not only white backgrounds, some of them have different backgrounds, so that it's more of a challenge. And you're just gonna select the tags so that it is a sword and it is a katana, and we're gonna upload it. And we're gonna repeat this step for every category. So now we're gonna select the long swords. Tags are swords and long sword. Also, as you can see here, different angles, different backgrounds, so that it's more of a challenge. Some of them are without the grip or the handle, and some of them are with the grip, which makes it even harder because it starts to look like two objects instead of one. Now we're gonna do the rapier. The sword and the rapier. And also, as you can see here, there are also some fantasy photos that I've included so that it's even harder, and some photos from video games. As you can see here, this is a photo from a video game, and this is a fantasy photo. Although it is still a rapier, it's just somewhat more fantasy than usual. Alright, and now, last but not least, the scimitar. So as you can see over here, the image I've shown earlier in the unfamiliar example was a person holding a sword, and this over here is a person holding a sword, but it's a scimitar. So this creates the challenge that if I give it the image that I've shown in the example, should it show a scimitar or should it show a katana? And this is what we're going to find out here. Okay, so now that you have your images imported, and you can see over here you have 16 katana, 16 longsword, rapier, scimitar, sword, etc. Now all you have to do is just train the model. Now this will, even though it's a quick training, it should take a lot of time to complete. Although advanced training is of course much more accurate, but for now we will just use the quick training. If you would like to seek at the end of the training, please go ahead. Okay, and now the model has finished training, and as you can see over here, those are the statistics of our model. You can see the precision overall is 90%, and the recall here is 76, which is out of the tags which should be predicted correctly, and whether your model correctly found the tag or not. And over here you have the AP, which summarizes the precision and recall at different thresholds. Okay, and now as I have predicted, the scimitar and longsword are a higher precision, and the rapier katana stands at lower, which is due to their shape. Okay, and now all we need to do is just press quick test over here and upload photo. Then I have prepared here for test. Let's test the katana for now. Now as you can see, this image over here is cartoon and it is red, right? And in my model I have not included a red katana before, which is even more of a challenge. So as you can see over here, it says 68% katana and of course 100% sword, or 99.9. Now just so that I can show you that I don't have this image here, let me just select the katanas, and as you can see here, there is no red katana and not even cartoonish. Alright, and now let's quick test another one. Let's test the longsword, and as you can see here, it says 95% or almost 95% longsword, although this is a blue handle and it looks quite different from the models that I've imported. Let me show you the ones. So as you can see here, there is no blue longsword with the same shape, although it is still a longsword, which is correct. And now let's test rapier. Let's see. Okay, so it predicted almost perfectly rapier, and that's because of its distinct shape of the handle and the very slim blade. Although I have not used a very red background before, let me show you. Those are the models that I have, and as you can see over here, those are two swords, not even one, which makes it even harder. So yes, I don't have this picture. And now let's test the final one, the scimitar. And as you can see, it's 98%. Okay, so now we've just been testing very familiar photos. It's just a photo of the sword itself. So like I said earlier, what happens if we test a picture of the person holding the katana? As you can see over here, it correctly predicted that it is a katana, although it is 15%, and of course 50% sword, because the rest, as you can tell, is not a sword. It's just this part is a sword of the picture, and it is 15% katana. That's because over here you can see this is a scimitar. It's not a katana, although there is a person and holding a katana, right? But it's still got the shape of the katana, which is what matters. Okay, everyone, and this is basically how you use Custom Vision AI by Azure Cognition. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. Please send me feedback if you can, and thank you very much. Have a great day.